Engineer, you've been listening to the NX70.
This is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Hi guys. Okay, so playing the outro before I even started the show should tell you just how tired I am. In fact, I think I lost a viewer because it's like you've been listening to, they're like, bye, out of here. Never again, unless I absolutely have to, will I do a red eye. I guess leaving at 10:30 at night is considered a red eye. And not only is it a red eye, but it was not even a nonstop. I had to get off the plane at about 6:00 this morning. So I left San Francisco at 10:30 San Francisco time to get to Atlanta at 6 a.m. East Coast time to get on another plane at 8:00 to come up to Philly. Yeah, so functioning right now, no, I am not quite functioning with the normal parameters, but I am here with my hat because I've still got airplane hair. Yes, it is the worst, Dave. I'm here because I was so excited and I had such a great time in San Fran and I couldn't not share that with you, like Robert, Nancy, Dave, hello, and anybody else that's out there that is not chatting. Hey, Puka. So first of all, if you're wondering why there's a Hawaiian theme tonight, it's because it is not every day that a girl gets laid by Connor Trenier. I finally got to sing karaoke, and everybody that sang karaoke got a lay. And now, when I say finally, I have sung karaoke, obviously, with them before, as most of you know, I've mentioned it. But there's been a dry spell where my name hasn't been called. But Saturday night, or Friday night, I should say, the dry spell ended, and I got up and I did. Technically, I did Faith of the Heart, which is a little bit different than Where My Heart Will Take Me. The end changes up a little bit. But I had to do the Rod Stewart version because their karaoke list, like there's like maybe 5 pages, but it's the only version in there is the Rod Stewart. Well, hello, Magic Lasso. See, this is what I got lassoed with on Friday night. And you know what? It's so much fun. It turns out, and before Connor put it on, he was playing with it. It's got a little battery pack. I hope their batteries are replaceable. So I just found this out. There's off, there's on that flashes, and then there's on that flashes slowly, and then there's solid, and then there's off. I'm going to turn it off because it's driving the green screen crazy. So the other thing I wanted to show you is this very cool t-shirt. I know it's backwards, but it says, "You don't just give up. You don't just let things happen. You make a stand." And this shirt is from the Be Kind merch booth at Gallifrey 1, which is the Doctor Who convention that happens every February in LA. After 3 years of going, this is the first year I missed it. And Raymond Lister, who does all of the Be Kind merch, made this because it seems like they've started a tradition of finding a Doctor Who phrase that fits in with the Be Kind messaging. 1 year it was run fast, laugh hard, be kind, which was part of Peter Capaldi's speech to himself as he was about ready to regenerate into Jodie Whittaker. Yeah, I got a last name right. Half the time I say it wrong. This one is from one of my absolute favorite Doctor Who episodes, first season, the very last episode, the second part of the season finale, Parting of the Ways. It was Bad Wolf and then Parting of Their Ways. And this is what Rose says when she's trying to explain to her mom and Mickey why she has to go back and help the Doctor with the Daleks, even though he tricked her into sending her home to keep her safe. One of my favorite scenes, she absorbs the heart of the TARDIS, then goes back to find the Doctor, and it's that last scene, you can find it online. Where she's absorbed the heart of the TARDIS was so fantastic. Christopher, that was that Doctor's tagline, was fantastic. It really was fantastic. Anyway, so Raymond brought this shirt specifically for me. He made a ton of shirts. They had a booth and he made a ton of shirts, but he wasn't bringing this one because this was technically the Doctor Who one, but he knew how badly I wanted one, and he is amazing. Shout out to Raymond. So he brought that. I'm gonna wear next week. I'm wearing the other shirt that I got. All proceeds, of course, support. Okay. I'm looking for some. I just had there it goes. See, like I said, not functioning. All proceeds support Be Kind or ALS. They have some Kevin Mitchell merch, and it supports ALS. So anyway, so that's that. So I don't know if Ed Milner is here. Hi, MacBoy 500. Thank you very much. That is actually how my convention started. I was both ways were one stop. I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, for a couple hours on my way out to San Francisco. I get off the plane, somebody walks by me and goes, "Nice hat." I'm like, "Thank you." I love it when people recognize my hat. So, yes, I love my hat. That's only about the third or fourth time out in the wild that somebody's actually recognized an NX-01. I mean, obviously, you go into a Star Trek convention, everybody knows it, but it's so cool when you're out in the wild and people go, "Nice hat." Okay, so the first big takeaway, never ever again am I doing a red eye, but like I said, I did it. Yes. Oh my God, I completely forgot. Yes, Magic Lasso. For those of you that don't know, that is where Mary Richards moved to. But with my headphones on, I'm not gonna take my headphones on and toss my hat up in the air. Hey, Happy Valley. Wait, is that Roy? I'm looking at pictures now. Is that Roy? Who doesn't have one in Happy Valley? This goes with me to Happy Valley when I head up to State College. See, Roy, I'm so used to you logging in as your production company. So, okay. So, lesson learned. No more red eyes. I did that for my mom, though. Today's her birthday, and I promised her, hey, Roy, I promised her that I would be home in time. No worries, EDB. Always good to see you. I promised her I'd be home for her birthday, and I didn't want to risk being late with a delayed flight or making her come pick me up in the middle of her day. So I came in this early this morning, went out to dinner. Like I said, we're gonna kind of fly through this. There might have to be a part 2 if I fall asleep while I'm doing this, but we'll see. I hope anyway, as I started to say, I hope Ed Milner's out there because I did a quick live YouTube the other day, yesterday, again, daylight savings time, the whole thing. And Ed wanted me tonight to compare San Francisco to STLV. So I thought that is a really great way to start the show. So let's start with just like the generals. Oh, yeah, okay. Let's start with the general stuff. It's a fantastic hotel. It is a couple minutes from the airport, which is really great. It has a free shuttle that runs every 15 minutes. You couldn't have asked for anything more unless you really actually wanted to do San Francisco. But since I was last minute on a budget, I really didn't have time to do San Fran. So I never left the hotel. So I don't even know if it counts to say that I was in San Francisco. So let's start with Creation had a Q&A. The last thing they did was a Q&A with Gary, one of the showrunners for Creation, one of the owners of Creation, and he was open to complaints and compliments and what could we do better and what didn't you like. It was fantastic. But the one thing that he wanted to leave us all with is this is only the beginning. Creation is back to doing regionals. There's definitely going to be another one of these in January of next year, so it's not going to be butting up against the cruise. So hopefully that means more guests, more time, more people. It seemed like there were a lot of locals. I mean, that was nice. San Francisco people, 5 hours you could drive up from LA. San Francisco residents were in and out, so there was a lot of locals. but they're going to do more. Gary mentioned there's a problem with Chicago. There's a problem with the dates for Chicago. So they were going to announce Chicago, then they had to pull back. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. There was a problem with the dates. They want to do Denver, and Gary wants to go to Philly because he is a Penn alum, which is as Mac and I know is different than Penn State, but he's a Penn alum, so he wants to come to Philly, which will be fantastic because Philly is a lot closer to me than the other creation sites that are up in the middle of nowhere. And Star Trek conventions are hotel conventions, not convention center conventions. So hopefully it will be Philly and not them going up to East bumfuck Parsippany. Love Parsippany. It's absolutely gorgeous. Where they have their other events like Vampire Diaries and all that. Beautiful. Just a long haul for me. It is not a commute. It is a spend the money to stay at the hotel. So I'm hoping Philly, because Philly, I'm in and out. Philly, I can commute. Obviously, this one was smaller than STLV. There was only one stage, so there was only single programming, which made it really easy, obviously, to plan your day because there was only one set of programming. The vendors room and the autograph room were separate, which is amazing because then there's no mixing of lines. Everybody knows you're in line for a celebrity because there are no vendors. If you want to go shopping, you don't have to trip over people. So just the actors and the creation table that had their merch for sale, along with the pictures that you could buy to have people sign. That's all that was in that room, and it was fantastic. It was a very small vendors room this year. Obviously, they want to expand it, but of course, that all depends on the vendors, who wants to come out, who's available, and whatnot. Maybe, and you have to pay for a vendor's table. And first-year conventions are always a crapshoot. Vendor tables can be expensive. The ones for Vegas, the smallest vendor table for Vegas is $675. And that's one in the center. They call them the island tables. And then the ones along the wall are a little more expensive. And then if you want the really pretty ones with the black draping and the big 10 by 10, those are $1,600, I think. That's Vegas. Obviously, San Fran prices are going to be lower, but the same thing applies. They're pricey. And a first-time convention, you never know if you're even going to break even on your own expenses between the booth and getting your merch out there if you have to fly and all of that other stuff. So light vendors room, that doesn't mean it's not going to change. They had this really great thing called the Outpost. Day passes were $25, and it was basically arts and crafts. There were people in there that led it. There was painting and jewelry making. And, if you just wanted to kind of do something artistic and chill out and not walk around the convention, but do something on your own and create something, the Outpost was a fantastic idea. Like I said, it's an a la carte. I think they said it was about $25. I'm not sure I've ever seen that in Vegas. So that was great. Obviously, this is more intimate than Vegas. I actually bumped into Gary yesterday and we were just chatting very briefly. And I said, I love that, it's so much better than Vegas. A lot of people tell Gary that having the actors in the vendors room is some cons charge for them, though. Great place. Yeah, exactly. It's a great place. $25 for a day pass, and it's in and out. So that's not bad. And of course, that probably, I'm sure that just goes to cover supplies and whatnot. It's really very reasonable. So I bumped into Gary and we were chatting. I said, I love the fact that the actors are in here. There's definitely benefits to having the actors separate from the vendors, like I said, especially when it comes to lining up, especially for the larger names, especially for like the people that are only going to be there for like a day or 2 days. If they're only going to be there for part of the convention, then everybody rushes to get their autographs, and then they've got lines from one end of the thing to the other, and they're blocking vendors. I've ran into that situation once at Monster Mania. I have a friend who used to have booths and he used to sell DVDs. And one year I said, well, can I come vend with you? I want to come and help you. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So I went, and where they put his booth was, they actually had a separate autograph room, but the way it was set up, there was a long hallway at this hotel. It was actually the same hotel that they used to have the Jersey Star Trek convention in when it was in Cherry Hill. There's a long hallway between the kind of like the outbuilding the separate building and the main building. And whoever they were lining up for, the line went all the way back up that hallway in and snaked into the vendor's room. That we literally had a line in front of the booth. People weren't buying because they literally couldn't get to the booth. So that's not cool for the vendors. But there's really nothing we could do about it, because anybody that, just so you guys all know, anybody that's ever been to STLV, the vendor's room, the vendor's room is on the right-hand side of that corridor. And then on the left-hand side, yes, you do see doors. Those doors have purposes. Those rooms have purposes. They're very small, so you really couldn't put anybody in there. It wouldn't work to put all of the actors that sit for the 4 days and sign, as opposed to the ones that get ticketed through creation. They're not big enough. B, all of those rooms have a purpose. Green rooms, the war room for the convention, where all, the office where creation does all of its behind the scenes stuff. All of those rooms have purposes, and they're all much smaller than that main ballroom where the vendors and the actors are. The other option that Gary said was to, curtain off, kind of divide the room up, like celebrities on this side, vendors on that side. But that would make the room feel that would make the room claustrophobic, and he agreed. When you start parsing out one big room and making it into sections, regardless of what you're using to section it off, whether it's a folding wall, like anybody that's ever done banquets knows that you can separate a room with those sliding folding walls. Whether it's that, or whether you're just hanging black drape in different spots and dividing, it makes it feel claustrophobic. So unfortunately for Vegas right now, unless something else comes along, it's going to be one room. But Gary agrees. It's nice when you have that opportunity to put the actors and the vendors separate, because it's just better for everybody when those things are separated. So that's one of the differences. Again, obviously, it's a smaller, more intimate, less people attended this. The hotel, the rooms, I'll post pictures. I took a picture. The Hyatt is like a big square with a open center, and the rooms are on the perimeter, and then there's a big atrium in the middle, and then the convention center's on a lower level. So everything was within spitting distance of everything else. Oh, I forgot this. I'm going to go back to my room. Take 2 seconds later, you're down. Had dinner Saturday night, wanted to change for the Rat Pack. Took 2 seconds to run up to my room, throw on what I wanted to throw on, come back down for the Rat Pack. So no, you can't come up right now. Zod's trying to come up. I know, I missed you too, but no. So any hotel that's like that, obviously the Rio is never going to be like that. But the Rio does feel like home. For anybody that's ever been there, you all know the Rio is kind of home. Gary's been there since the remodel. He says it's absolutely gorgeous. The rooms look beautiful. Cannot wait to get my butt out there. My birthday is opening day. My birthday is opening day, which means opening day karaoke, which hopefully means once again I will get to sing Kneel Before Zod. Yep. Except tonight. Tonight we're not kneeling before Zod. Tonight Zod has to go wait for me elsewhere or just on the floor. Because you can't come up on my lap right now. He's sitting down on the floor. Okay. The other big difference, Bonnie Gordon and Ryan T. Husk. I think you guys all know that name. The original Chat Pack, 7th Rule. Ryan T. Husk, Bonnie Gordon, the voice of the computer from Prodigy. She's the voice of the Protostar. They were the hosts, and it looks like, according to Gary, they're going to be back. Like I said, when they're doing these regionals, it sounds like these guys might have a steady gig because they were that fan-damn-tastic. 15-minute walk. Exactly. You get all your steps in just getting from your room down to the Rio. My last day at STLV this past summer, I needed a coffee so badly, and that line was at the wazoo, and I got to my booth, and I'm texting anybody that I know, please come bring coffee. Nobody wanted to bring coffee, but my buddy who was a vendor heard my pleas. I don't even know how. Maybe I Vulcan mind melded with her. I don't remember how she heard me begging for coffee, because it was just in a message. She's like, I'm just going to the American Bar and Grill. Do you want coffee? I'm like, yes. Didn't care at that point if it was Starbucks. I cared that it was caffeinated and coffee, and she brought me coffee. So yeah. How was Connor Dom karaoke? Connor Dom karaoke was exactly like you all would expect it to be. It was great. If you signed up and they pulled your name and you didn't show up, they all sang. They sang, Stephanie sang. It actually only happened a couple times. It was short because there was actually an after party. So karaoke ran, I think, from like 8 to 9-ish, 9:30-ish, and then there was an after party upstairs. But like I said, my dry spell has been broken. There were some okay singers. There was me. I did the theme. So yeah, it was great. It was fun. It's always fun. They're always a lot of fun. You know what? All right. Sorry. Everybody else can ignore me for 2 seconds because this is an inside joke. I'm sorry, Magic Lasso. There weren't any bike taxis to take me to the San Francisco Municipal Building, so I didn't get a chance to go this time. Maybe next year. Okay. So what else made it different? Oh, Bonnie and Ryan. I got distracted. Bonnie and Ryan, great hosts. Funny as anything, Bonnie did this Vanna White thing for they did Star Trek trivia 2 days, and they have a wheel now, and the wheel spins topic, it picks a specific topic, and then Gary was reading questions. For anybody that doesn't know, Creation does this really great yes no trivia. So they give you a piece of paper says yes, piece of paper says no, and then that's all it is. They ask you a question, you just hold up which you answer. I think I lasted 3 questions in and I got it wrong. But it was a lot of fun. But anyway, so Bonnie did a Vanna White thing, spinning the wheel. She is a fantastic improv. Ryan, as you all know, if you ever watch The Seventh Rule, is a terrific host. So hopefully I don't know what's going to happen with Vegas, but at least hopefully for the regional stuff, Bonnie and Ryan work great together, and they'll have a steady gig doing that. Bonnie also did a jazz night on Saturday night. After the Rat Pack ran a little long. Oh, that was another thing. The Rat Pack, if you didn't have a Captain's Gold or Copper, it was a la carte. So of course it's the Rat Pack. I spent the $50. I wanted to go see the Rat Pack. I was debating between getting a Copper ticket to have a reserved seat, and getting general admission and then the Rat Pack. The price difference wasn't that bad, but I knew me, and I knew that the Copper ticket would go to waste because I wasn't in the room, and I ended up sitting with people that didn't have, like Melissa and that amazing group, and they never have reserved seats. So if I wanted to sit with them and have that kind of freedom and flexibility to sit with whoever I wanted, since I was traveling by myself, it made so much more sense to just get my GA. So I got my GA week pass and like a weekend pass, and then spent the $50 for the Rat Pack. Ethan Phillips was there with them. He hasn't been there physically with them in a while. The last couple of shows I've seen, they've had this really cute video, but it's the same video of him just telling his jokes in one little video clip. Now he was going along with the show. So the show ran a little long, so I got to Bonnie's thing a little late. So some more spacing would have been better. Knowing that Ethan was there and the show wasn't just going to be about the music, but Ethan was going to cut in, which was great because there were some times Jeff was having a guitar tuning issue. So Ethan was there to kind of, fill the gaps with some very blue humor. I think the best one, I'm going to tell you Ethan's best joke. This was the one that I couldn't stop laughing. There's a very old couple, and one night they're in bed together and they haven't been intimate in months. And the husband, all of a sudden, he starts touching his wife and feeling up her face and caressing her face and her neck. She's like, "Ooh." And then he's moving slowly down her body. He's feeling all over and he's rubbing her up and she's getting all excited, gets down to her breasts. And she's like, "Whoo, whoo." And he's going down to her stomach and he's doing the same thing. And then he stops. And she goes, "Why'd you stop?" And he said, "Because I found the remote." That's Ethan's sense of humor. I thought that one was great. I don't tell it as good as he does. But I thought that was fantastic. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, there was actually a pre-night. There was a pre-night get together. Usually the pre-night of Vegas is they open the vendors room and there's a preview night, not any sort of party or get together. There was no vendors. There was no preview night. You could check in, but then upstairs in the bar, Bonnie and Ryan were hosting a little get together for everybody. They handed out these cards, these really fantastic cards, and each card had a position on it: operations, security, captain. There were 7 different positions on these cards, and they just handed them out randomly. I got security, which we all know was post armory position. If it had been the Enterprise, that would have been the armory officer sitting right over there. Anyway, I actually got the direction. Oh no, otherwise I would have been sitting there. Anyway, so I got security. So what you had to do, this is a great way to meet people. You had to go find other people with different cards because there were 7 different positions. So 7 people had to make up one group, and each person obviously had to have a different card. And then that was your team. Hey, Ed. Oh, so good to see you. I hope you heard most of what I was saying about the differences. We're still kind of on it, but obviously, you can. I mean, the first 10 minutes I was still trying to wake up, so hopefully you heard everything. If not, you're just gonna have to rewatch the beginning. So you get your team, and then Ryan and Melissa. No, Melissa was on my team. Ryan and Bonnie had trivia questions. So if you were security, they asked you an operations question, a security question. If you're operations, they asked you an operations question. And if your team got 4 questions right, you won prizes. Awesome. So glad you were here for me to answer you, Ed. So I couldn't get my question, but the beauty of it is it's either you or the captain. So I came up with an answer, and since he's the captain can either go with your answer or choose one of his own. It was a Voyager question. We all know I suck at Voyager. So the captain overruled me, and he was right, thankfully. We got 4 questions right, so we all won prizes. And these were actually, I found out later, these were prizes that Gary gave Ryan. So just really random, cool collectibles. There were autographs. I got an autograph of, I think it was one of the Romulans from Enterprise Incident. I don't know the actor's name, so I got that. But the cooler thing I got was an official Star Trek Wrath of Khan cup. It looks like a coffee mug, but it's plastic. And it's basically, I remember these types of cups growing up. It's a novelty. It's more of a novelty than an actual drinking cup because it's literally a photograph wrapped around a cup and then with a plastic casing on the outside. Will not be drinking out of this because I have a feeling that after 40 years that Wrath of Khan just celebrated 40 years. After 40 years, I have a feeling whatever seals there were that was keeping liquids from damaging the photo underneath are probably a little less sealed, but it's very cool. It's it's not a replica. It is something that came out in the Wrath of Khan during, there were a couple other really cool things that gave away. There were pictures of John Billingsley. I have Phlox's autograph, but you could have gotten a John Billingsley, Paul Wesley, the new Kirk. There were some other really cool autograph pictures. So we had a lot of fun. And like I said, it was a great way to meet people. It was a great way to meet people because you just randomly went up to people like, who do you have? Do you need and I literally lucked out on my first try. I'm like, you guys need security? I'm here. So, and I got on a team with Melissa, which was awesome. Melissa, being the amazingly good sport she is, skipped her question because she helped put them together. So they just skipped her and they asked her positions question to somebody else. But that was a really great way to start it off. I'm not sure if they would do a major meetup. I mean, because it's one thing when you've got a small group in, like, as a regional convention, as opposed to let's do something like this on the kind of scale that STLV is. I'm sure they'll just going to stick with the preview night. And don't forget, there is always the newbie and solo travelers meetup, which is always a great thing that happens. And actually, during the Q&A, somebody had suggested a buddy system. So I hope somebody for newbies. So I hope somebody lets Gary know. Could be me. Or that, there's already a group that does like this newbies and solo thing, and maybe they can combine it or figure out a way, because solo travelers, sometimes they want a veteran to, kind of hang out with them and walk them through everything. So that was the suggestion, you match up a newbie with a veteran, and then they can, experience the con together or whatever it is. I actually did a little bit of that yesterday. I have friends that I have not seen since the cruise that I went on. I went on Star Trek The Cruise 3 and made some amazing friends, Kyle and Eugene. And I haven't seen them since. And so I finally got to see them this weekend, and they introduced me to their friend Matt, who wanted to meet Todd Stashwick, but he didn't know how to do it. He's like, I just want to meet him. I don't want to get his autograph. And I did my whole Convention 101 about how wait till there's nobody in his line. Think of a really good question, not necessarily a Star Trek Captain Shaw question, but something else, and just start a conversation, and, the whole just be mindful if there's somebody else and move on. So all of us went over, and he was still really nervous. So I just went up to Todd and said, hey, we met at STLV, blah, 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 blah. How are you? I said, hi. I said, oh, by the way, this is my friend Matt. He's a little nervous. He wanted to meet you. He doesn't know what to say. This is Matt, Todd. There you go. So that's how I started that. And then Kyle and Eugene jumped in, and we were having this awesome conversation. It turns out that there's like some sort of coffee talk thing with Todd. Todd is an amazing human, between D&D and the Star Wars stuff. And now he's got like this coffee talk, and he's got like this, what is it? Wait, I wrote it down, and you can get this on Amazon every day. Todd Stashwick drinks New Mexico Pinon, Pinon coffee. That is his coffee of choice. New Mexico Pinon. Look it up. It's on Amazon, and you can get it whole bean or ground. It's very reasonably priced, and I told him I'm going to try it because Todd Stashwick recommends it. So I definitely have to try it. So we were standing there just having a really great conversation, and eventually his handler went, are you guys going to do an autograph or a selfie? And like I said, always be wary. The minute she said that, I tapped Matt, and Kyle was finishing. I'm like, we got to move on. So we kind of backed off. We finished whatever, like kind of ended the conversation there. And I said, see, I said, the handler, I said, not Todd, the handler said something. And when the handler says something, disappear. So that was great. Matt got to meet Todd. We got to find out about this coffee. Can't wait to go on Amazon. Of course, my subscribe and save of Starbucks just showed up, but that doesn't mean that I won't order Todd's coffee. So let's see. Ryan, trivia, moderator, Q&A. All right, moving on. Let's see what else was going on. Okay, so they did announce January. Let me look. January is going to be the next one. So they are continuing with San Francisco. And the next San Francisco is going to be in January. I'm going to look really, really quick and see if I can figure this out. January 24th, 25th, and 26th. So it's going to be the end of January, which makes so much more sense. It's not literally the week after the cruise. People were sick. Connor had told me he hadn't been feeling well. A lot of people got sick on this cruise. A lot of the actors got sick on this cruise. So and you don't want to compete. You want to give people enough time to decide, yeah, I could take off work for a weekend and take off work for the cruise, or I could, leave on, come out on Friday, not take off. So you want to be able to get people who want to do both. So it's going to be the end of January, which is a month, at least. Yeah, it's a month before the cruise. And it's San Francisco, so it's not going to be freezing cold. So we definitely have that. Like I said, they're working on Denver. They're thinking about Philly. Denver and Philly. So we've got a lot to look forward to. The regionals are coming back. I can't be more excited, especially if they are going to be in my own backyard. All right. So that pretty much sums up the differences. And if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. You or anybody else. That's the whole point of being live. You got any questions about any of this? Let me know. Let's see what else. So I talked about Todd and his coffee. You should see how poor my handwriting is tonight. I was just like scribbling it. I can barely, I saw that too. Some people I saw some people posting on the cruise pages that they came home with COVID. Yep. Yeah, Chicago was supposed to be announced. Like I said, there were problems with Chicago. I think part of it, and this kind of leads into what I was going to say, To the Journey. The Voyager documentary is slated, they're hoping to have the premiere sometime in October. They're going to be doing a big weekend premiere, and obviously they don't want to butt up with To the Journey, so now this is tentative. I talked to Dave Sapone of 455 Films. He's got to put all of this in the can, but then he is absolutely moving on to an Enterprise doc, which I was badgering him. I want to help. So I caught some of the To the Journey panel with Lolita and Ryan, and Bob Picardo popped in. I missed that, dummy me for leaving. And one of the cool things about a documentary, and this is a quote from Lolita, it's not scripted, because and that's the beauty of a documentary, is it's not scripted. So it can literally be changed all the way up to the point where you're just ready to cut, print, do the final. Yep. Let's all have faith. They're going to shuffle. They're going to reshuffle. Chicago's great. I can't wait. Magic Lasso actually isn't too far from Chicago. So if they do Chicago, I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to get Magic Lasso to come out. Even if I have to buy Lasso a day pass, even if he only comes out for the day, if I have to let him sleep on my hotel room floor and he has a day pass, Lasso, you're coming out to this. You gotta experience a Star Trek convention. He's gone to so many different conventions over his life. He's never been to a Star Trek convention, so I would love to drag his butt into a Star Trek convention. So Lasso, be prepared to come to a Star Trek convention if they land in Chicago. But the beauty, like I said, the beauty of a documentary is there's no sequencing until you sequence it. There's no script. There's no order. So you can drop whatever you want in as you get a hold of people like Sarah Silverman and Ed Begley, because that is who Dave is still trying to get a hold of to sit down and get interviews with for the documentary. So it is still fluid. It is still a work in progress. Dave jokingly said he thinks The Rock might be a little busy to do anything, but that would be fantastic, I think, if you could get them. So yeah, so they have more people that they want to put in the doc, and if they can get it, within a decent amount of time, they'll hit their October deadline, and they'll have something for us to see in October. So again, have a little faith, cross your fingers. And I know I posted this on my Facebook page last week. We all heard, or at least anybody that follows any of the Star Trek Facebooks, which might be one or two of you, Brent Spiner is reprising his role as, oh my gosh, Bob Wheeler. There it is. Brent is reprising his role as Bob Wheeler in Night Court. After 20, 30 years, he's back as Bob Wheeler, and Zod just will not take no for an answer. He's reprising his role as Bob Wheeler in this week's Night Court. And so I popped into the Brent. I stayed for the Brent panel, which was opened by Bonnie Gordon singing one of her new tunes about being in love with loving Data, and it was fantastic. And Brent loved it. And then he came out, and I actually got in line and asked him a question. And the question was, how much did he enjoy revisiting the role of Bob Wheeler? And he said it was fantastic to be back on set. The original actress that played his wife is going to be there. He said, we had a kid in the first episode and she disappeared. They're bringing Carol Ann back. It is airing tomorrow night, Night Court. It's streaming the next day on Peacock. So one way or the other, you guys have to go see it. But I realized after I asked him the question about revisiting the role, that my questioning of Brent Spiner has come full circle, because I went to Brent Spiner's very first convention appearance in New York. It was the creation event in New York, and he actually was doing an after show. He actually did an after show. He wasn't ready for the whole crowd, so they did a ticketed event after the after the rest of the convention closed, so that the crowd would be a little smaller. He has no problems now. He was a hoot and a half. And at that convention, I asked him if he enjoyed playing Bob Wheeler, and he actually answered me in Bob Wheeler's voice, well, there's just something about Bob Wheeler. So for me to be able to ask him about his reprisal, I went over to his table and I told him, it's come full circle, that I was able to ask you about Bob Wheeler then and now. So we had a chat for a minute. And then he said, they told me it was the best episode they've taped so far. I'm like, I don't know. They had John Larroquette in Klingon, dressed up as a Klingon, but we'll see. Which I hope he realized I was completely teasing him. If he doesn't, I have a feeling I am going to have to do something on Twitter to make him understand that I was completely teasing him. Let's see. Okay, Dave Zappone. Like I said, I talked to Dave Zappone from 455 Films. He will be coming on the show. Unfortunately, and I get this, it's going to be closer to when they're ready to premiere the documentary, because that's what he wants to talk about. And I have to respect that. So, if I want information, I can text him and bug him. And trust me, I bugged Dave. We were supposed to go out to drinks in Hoboken, but he no longer has a residence in Hoboken. So unfortunately, that's not going to happen, which sucks. But Dave and I are in contact. So if anybody has any questions specifically relating to the journey, shoot them over to me, and I am more than happy to ask Dave and see if I can get you answers on the show. So if something, comes up, if you see anything online that you want clarification on or whatever, feel free to DM me on one of my socials, if you want, and I will see about getting you an answer to anything. Because just because I can't have him sitting here doing a Q&A doesn't mean I won't pester him for specific answers to specific questions. Saw Larry. I saw Doctor. I'm going to just call him Dr. Trek, because I always massacre his last name, especially again back to tired. Brief. I told him I wanted to have him come back on the show at some point, so we can talk some more. But he had a table. He was, everywhere all at once as usual. Let's see, Sirach. Oh, Sirach Lofton. For anybody that saw my post, you'll know that the first people I ran into, was actually on my way out to the hot tub. The first day I got there, I had to get up at 3 a.m. to get to the airport. And then again, 2 flights, got to the hotel, was about 1:30, got up to the room, unpacked, out like a light, got up, put on a suit. I was bound and determined to hot tub, at least one day while I was there. So I got out to the hot tub. But on my way out to the hot tub, the entire 7th rule was in the lobby. Sirach was checking in. Ryan was there. Melissa was there. Got to say hi to everybody. I love Sirach. Sirach gives great hugs. So I love seeing Sirach. Told him I traveled 3,000 miles just for a hug. So, I did not tell him I want to have him back on the show. I'll have to bug him about that. But Sirach, as always, was fantastic. He had some really good panels that I sat in on little bits and pieces of. Y'all know I'm not really a panel person. Where, one of the big things that I think is so incredible, people always ask him what he took away from that role. He literally grew up on the set. Avery has always been like a second father to him. And, he said he learned a lot from Jake Sisko, and from the relationship with Avery, and from the relationship that Benjamin had with Jake. And one of the takeaways from all of that was that he says, I love you to his daughter, because there was a lot of there wasn't a lot, I forget how that came out, but that's the part I remember. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so Sirach had some really good panels that I missed half of. Okay, Michelle Hurd. Had a lovely conversation with her. She is bloody awesome. And I had a chance to go and tell her that because of everything that she went and did with the strike. Which, for those of you that don't know, and I know I mentioned this on the show, but for those of you that don't know, there would not have been an STLV this past year if it were not for two things. One that Gary brought up, which is like kind of like a, oh my God, like things that make you go, Michelle fought to find a way for Star Trek Las Vegas and other conventions to happen. And I told her that I thought it was terrible that people were complaining, that people did not understand that without Michelle's intervention and Michelle's advocacy for, we can do this, we can figure out a way to make this happen so that these actors can get out and do something that's going to get them paid, because they're going to pay for signing autographs and selfies. She really advocated for conventions to be able to continue. What Gary brought to that equation was that because they lost their license with Paramount, they were not affiliated with any studio, they were independent, they were allowed to have the convention. Had they still been a licensee of Paramount, had they still been affiliated, and Paramount would have gotten money regardless of whether the actors mentioned the shows, because that was the whole thing, can't mention Star Trek, have to talk in generalities, etc., wouldn't have mattered, because the studio would have gotten a piece of the pie as Creation was their, licensee. So Star Trek Las Vegas happened this past year for two reasons. One, Michelle Hurd, huge. Two, because Creation lost the license. How cool is that? And, Reed Pop hasn't done Boo with it since their Chicago event, which wasn't great. They don't know what, they know how to do a convention. They don't know how to do a Star Trek convention. It's basically what it came down to, because Star Trek conventions are very different. They're very family. Star Trek is a family. It is not the kind of convention that you want to go to a big convention hall. And plus it looked terrible. And it was COVID and it was just awful. And they had one set for Seattle and then they canceled it and they haven't done anything with it since. And Gary said he's not even sure he'd take the license back at this point. There's definitely a nice freedom to not having the license. They had the Orville cast there this past year, which was fabulous for me. Because I got to meet them all and they're all amazing people as well. But they can have Star Trek adjacent now. They used to not be able to do that, but they can have science fiction actors at these shows now that they're not a licensee. They can do what they please. They don't have to, they don't have to run anything by anybody. The studio has a say if they're giving you the license, rightly so. So they said, even if Creation, or even if Paramount came back and said, you can have it back, they may not want it. And of course, after I got done talking to Michelle about how, showing her my appreciation, saying, I know, you hear a lot of complaints. I want you to know that I appreciate everything that you've done. I said, shameless plugged my show. So she gave me some emails. I have to go through her booking agent, but cross your fingers, Michelle will do the show. Jonathan Del Arco is adorable and sweet, and I got to yell at him for not returning my last email. And good news is what he was working on, what he was doing that was going to keep him from going live on Monday nights is done. So hopefully now we'll be able to have him on here. But here's the thing. He is filming a guest spot on a TV series. Filming a guest spot on a TV series this week. I don't know if it's going to be a one-day shoot, but anyway, and he would like to come on when he finds out the air date of his episode so he can promote it. So Jonathan's going to be on the show to promote him, talk about that, talk about Hugh, whatever you guys want to talk about, that's going to happen. So thumbs up to that. Had a lovely talk with John Delancey. It's the first time I've actually spoken with John Delancey since the time he snapped at me at the Creation event in New York. Not even going to revisit it. Done. We had a lovely conversation about the amazing Arlene Sorkin, who passed away back in October. They worked together on Days of Our Lives. And so I wanted to talk to him about her, give him my condolences. They were a couple. I thought that they were incredible back then. They had such great chemistry. And so we chatted about Arlene for a little bit. Let's see. Max Grodenchuk is somebody else I am trying to get on the show. That would have to be a taped event because he is still living in Vienna. So obviously, I'm not going to ask him to stay up till 2, 3 in the morning, whatever time it is over there. If Vienna is running on the same time zone as Germany, I will tell you exactly what time it is out there. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. My world clock has Germany on it on my phone. Yeah, it's 3:49 in the morning right now. So wouldn't ask anybody to stay up that late to do my little show. So we'll see. Maybe Max will do it. Rat Pack performance, as always, was incredible. They finally finished their CD. People have been begging them for a CD for forever. They finally were able to get some studio time, get themselves together, and do something after Vegas this year. So they actually recorded a Star Trek Rat Pack CD. I, of course, bought one immediately, and they're so easy to find because they are. Hold on a second, guys. This is what I get for not looking shit up before the show. This one's easy. But if you go to StarTrekRatPack.com, let's see, show it. There we go. Go to Star Trek Rat. If I spelled that wrong, please don't tell me. But it's StarTrekRatPack.com. You can pick up their CD. It's basically their entire show. Zindi was on there, which is why I bought it. A Borg called Hugh is on there, and for the low price of $65, it comes with all of their signatures. Why do I say low price? It's got Jeff. Everybody was there. Jeff, Vaughn, Casey, Max, Ethan. 5 signatures and a CD for $65. Come on, guys. I just need to fix my computer because I get the computer. First time I try to open the CD, it doesn't work. The computer's not recognizing the CD drive. I'm hoping the wires just came loose and I just need to actually plug and unplug the CD drive in. Otherwise, I have an old clock radio that has a CD player in it, and I'll be listening to it there. But highly recommended, especially if you've never heard the Rat Pack. Get the CD. The Lower Decks panel. Lower Decks. That was absolutely amazing. It was Eugene. Don't ask me last names. Rutherford. He played the voice of Rutherford. Was there. Tawny was there. And Dawn Lewis was there, and their chemistry was fantastic. They were hysterical. And honestly, because we all know that when I have people on my show, I like to talk about things that they've done outside of Star Trek. We all love Lower Decks, or at least I hope everybody here does. Lower Decks is fantastic. They have a lot of fun doing it. And would you believe that because of COVID, they all still individually record? That's right. They are not together in any sort of recording booth. They individually record from whatever studios they're recording from, but they have grown so close as a cast. They were saying they hear each other in their heads. So they know when they're, they don't need the other person in there reading their lines to understand how the other person is acting and what they're saying and how they're saying it. And they can match exactly without needing to be in the same room or doing the recording at the same time, which is fantastic. But for those of you that don't know, Dawn Lewis was in, she played Jaleesa in A Different World, which was the Cosby Show spinoff. Lisa Bonet, ironically, was I think only in it one season. But Lisa Bonet, the second oldest child of Cosby, went off to college. And it was such an impactful show about college life and watching people grow from their parents' house to becoming young adults responsible for their own lives on college campuses. They tackled some really, really tough issues, including date rape, which I didn't remember, but it's on one of my TV channels, and every now and then, if it's on, I'll tune in for a couple of episodes. But they have now gotten, as Dawn says, gotten the band back together. And oh wow, I did not know she had a nonprofit. Not sure they mentioned it in the panel. Thanks. I'll have to look that up. Thanks, Dave. So they've gotten the band back together and they're touring college college campuses to talk about college life and how to make the most of it and what you're going through, because the show Different World still resonates today. So they are taking everybody on the road to talk to college students about college life and how to make the most of it. And this program has gotten such great traction that while they're here on the East Coast, they're going to Howard University. The president and first lady have invited him to the White House. So I think that that's absolutely fantastic. That does not surprise me. They were improvising the shit out of each other on stage the other day. They are hysterical. They really are. They have such great senses of humor. And they play so well off of each other. Let's see. All right, we are winding down because I'm winding down. I can even feel my voice starting to see. I can't even read. I literally had one more thing and I can't even. No, it wasn't done. I have no idea what that note to myself is. So whatever it is, if I figure it out between now and next week, I'll tell you what it is. But that's pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much everything that I have to say. It was a fantastic experience, Ed. I hope I answered all of your questions about comparing it to STLV. Hopefully you'll put it on your convention list next year. Obviously, like I said, more convenient because it's going to be in January. So I'm really excited to go next year. I don't know if it's possible for me to do all 10. But like I said, Lasso better watch out because Chicago's definitely going to be on my list. San Fran probably, just because I'd like to go back and spend a couple days and actually go see San Francisco. So I know a couple people did that. Roddenberry's, that's what that said. The Roddenberry's were there. That was a very pleasant surprise because every time I do STLV, the last few years, I have flown home with the Roddenberry's. And everybody, yeah, exactly. It was too close for a lot of people. And right, and understandably so. But the Roddenberry, 3 of the Roddenberry's were there. They weren't performing; they were just representing the band. Including my favorite, Fallon. I love Fallon. Fallon and Kevin are fantastic. They're actually still out there, enjoying the sights and the food. So that's definitely on my bucket. That would definitely be something I would do, is maybe go out a day or two early if I could. Maybe work during the day, take a break, go take a tour. Like I said, this place is 5 minutes from the airport. It's technically Burlingame, but I mean, I think some people could actually see the Golden Gate from their window. Not that it's that hard, but and hey, listen, Charmed, the Charmed girls live there, and I did love Charmed. So that about wraps it up for my STSF experience. Again, definitely doing it again. Definitely recommend it. Gary took a lot of fantastic feedback. They taped it, took a lot of fantastic feedback for what to do, what not to do, how to make their improvements. So hopefully we'll see a lot of that stuff implemented, maybe even in the regional stuff they've got going on going forward before San Francisco. So thanks guys for putting up with me and my sleepiness. I always appreciate all of you being here, hanging out with me. Robert, thank you so much. It is Betty Bye time for me. I am crawling right in. You guys are lucky I'm wearing this shirt and not pajamas, because that's how tired I am. I needed to fit that in just one more time before I left you. And guys, you know what? Now it's time for Connor's outro. So to everybody out there, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. Everybody put San Francisco on your checklist for next January. And until I see you all next week, please do not forget to live long and prosper.
You've been listening to the NX7062